How's it going, everyone? Coming in with another top 30 visit video. This one's going to be again on a defensive tackle in Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State University. So Tyleik Williams comes in as the 5th best ranked defensive lineman, not including the edge rushers, in this year's draft, and is currently ranked 43rd overall out of all the players. For his RAS score, he did not test enough to actually have a RAS score. So what we know is he comes in at a height of 6'2" and weighs 334 pounds. Didn't do the 40-yard dash, unfortunately, because at the NFL Combine, he did not test in the 40-yard dash or really any of the bench pressing or the agility drills, just the defensive lineman drills to see how he moves and pretty much how his hips were. At his pro day, if you didn't hear, he did run the 40, but unfortunately midway through the 40, he fell and grabbed his leg and his knee. Looked pretty scary, especially considering you don't want to see a player just automatically fall at the 40-yard dash and start holding his leg. But luckily, it wasn't a big injury. He was actually okay afterward. He said it was probably just cramps. No reports that he actually did sustain an injury, so he's probably good to go. Of course, unless they're withholding something, hopefully not, but this is where the Packers are going to bring him in, of course, and kind of do a medical evaluation because A, he did fall down on his 40-yard dash at his pro day, and B, he also did miss a couple of games this year in 2024 with Ohio State throughout the season due to ankle injuries. So they probably want to have a nice full medical report on him. So unfortunately, we don't really have any measurables for him. He says that if he didn't fall, his 40-yard time would have been at the 4.8 or 4.9 seconds. So let's just pretend he's giving himself a little bit extra speed there, and he ran a 5.05. So if we're to look at all the defensive tackles that ran at the 40 or at the NFL Combine for their 40 time, that puts him in about the top 10, depending on where you want to put his 40-yard time. But even at 5.09, tied at 5.09, would put him in the top 10 40-yard times for defensive tackles. So really, probably has some pretty good speed. Fastest time being 4.83 seconds from Ty Robinson. Now, for his time at the college level, he spent 4 years all at Ohio State. So in his first year, played in 12 games, had 16 combined tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. In his second year, played in 13 games, had 21 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. In his third year, played in 13 games again, had 53 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. Then in his final year, played in 13 games. Would have played in more considering they did go to the championship, but because of injuries, only played 13 games again. That's why it's the same as the previous years. 13 games, 46 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks. And well, in the sack department, he didn't really produce too much, but he is an interior defensive lineman, and his specialty is more in the run defense. So looking over on the PFF side for his grades, in his final year, played 586 total snaps, had a 79.2 defensive grade, an 88.6 run defensive grade, and a 59.8 pass rush grade. His pass rush grade was kind of on the lower end, especially after kind of being in the 60s and 70s, but his run defensive grade kept improving kind of starting off from 60, but ending at 88.6. And he was pretty important in that run defense for Ohio State, as they ranked 3rd for the entire 2024 season. So he played a very big part in that. In his final year, like I said, he had 27 total tackles. He only missed 7, and he had 23 total stops. And as you can see, throughout his entire career, in his first 2 years, didn't get too much playing time, but still got 10 and 15 stops total for each year. And then once he started getting playing time, had 33 in his 3rd year and 23 total stops in his 4th year. So definitely a run-stopping type of defensive tackle. Now, for what are some of the pros for him? Good movement skills for his size, giving him a higher ceiling as a prospect. Impressive upper body strength to stand up offensive linemen at the line of scrimmage, get extension, and gain control of the block. Has little to no issues shedding or getting off blocks when he lands his hands. Solid at collapsing the pocket with a bull rush with his leg drive and strength. Has flashed a few pass rush moves that he can win with, such as rip, swim, hand swipe, and stick moves. Gets his hands up and can bat passes at the line of scrimmage when he doesn't win as a rusher. Now, for some of the cons for him, inconsistent overall, shows flashes of brilliance, and then gets beat too much for someone of his caliber. Has a habit of false stepping or hopping out of his stance, contributing to poor pad level, which makes it more difficult for him to take on double teams and impacts the consistency of his bull rush. Bad block recognition, doesn't put himself in good position to take on blocks, especially against down blocks and down team / combos, where he gets caught off guard and kicked out of his gap. Still learning how to use and be more consistent with his use of hands as a pass rusher and run defender. He's often late and has wide placement with his hands, and appears to have shorter arms, limiting his extension when taking on blocks, which could be a bigger issue in the NFL. Now, for his fit with the Packers, if the Packers went down this route, I think it's a very good fit and a pretty good type of player to go after, especially since we did lose TJ Slayton, who was our main run defender amongst his defensive line. Like, the defense was a lot better when he was on the field in run defense. We lost TJ Slayton, and we do need to kind of get more bodies to help with that. Well, Tyleik Williams, who is currently projected to be about a day 2 pick, he is a run defensive tackle. That already kind of gets him some reps as a rookie usually, since that is a very important trait for us. And it's definitely something that this defense is going to still need. I don't want to go back to before Jeff Hafley, where our run defense was non-existent. It was really nice and very weird to have a run defense, and I would like the Packers to continue that. So we're going to have to replace what TJ Slayton offered to this defense. So in Tyleik Williams, he would probably be able to at least get some rotation snaps, if not, God forbid, start on this defense in run defense, obvious run defense, and play a very good part in pretty much allowing us to be hopefully a top 10, top 5 run defense again. Now, with the problems with him, of course, like they said, he's a bit inconsistent. I feel like a lot of rookies are going to kind of be inconsistent going from college to the big leagues. It's going to happen unless you're like a wide receiver or a running back. These things are going to probably happen. So hopefully our coaches can kind of figure out, get some more consistency, help with his hands, and maybe get him a little bit better in the pass rushing to become a better overall player. He probably has the run defense down. He's a big body. He's strong, but just because he's strong doesn't mean he's not quick. On film, kind of watching his highlights in previous games, he does have a pretty good first step to where not only does he kind of like, he's not really like taking up space all the time, but he's also penetrating gaps pretty fast. So he's multifaceted in that sense, and I did like seeing that when kind of watching some of the plays from him. So it's going to be a little bit interesting to see how this draft goes, especially in day 2. Day 1 might give us a better indicator of where we could go in day 2 because, well, defensive line is an important need, but do we try to get that in round 1, or do we somehow go to a receiver? Do we get a corner? And then in day 2, if we went defensive lineman, that kind of opens up for a corner, and we might not go after him unless he's the best player available, of course, because there is potentially Siobhan Revell Jr., who's a really good corner who's just kind of fallen due to the fact he tore his ACL, and depending on his medical chart and what the Packers find out, he could be a steal in the 2nd round. So there's potentially some good fits for the Packers in Tyleik Williams over here on the defensive line, and then you also have Siobhan Revell Jr., who could also be an important need depending on what's going on with this whole Jair Alexander situation. But let me know what you think down in the comments. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, go Pack Go.